This video demonstrates the advanced features of rosters and survey solutions. Rosters are groups of questions that are replicated based on answers from some other questions. A commonly used roster in surveys is a roster of household members. Rosters can also represent lists of food items, goods that are owned by a household, land plots, and many others. In a paper questionnaire, rosters are often represented by tables. Each row in a roster can include many questions about an item. In a roster of household members, for example, the questions might include the member's name, age, marital and education status. Rosters can even contain other rosters. We call these nested rosters. In our first example, we will talk about a simple roster of household members. We will begin by creating a list-triggered household roster. Then, in the roster, add a text question to capture the name of the household member. By doing this, we can draw the names of the household members for answer options in a linked categorical question elsewhere in the questionnaire. We will then add categorical single select questions on relationship to household head, marital status, and gender. In addition, we will include a numeric question to capture the age of the household member. Consider the checks that we would want to add to the roster. First, we want to make sure that only one member in the roster is marked as household head. Therefore, we will add the following condition with a corresponding error message to the relation to household head question. This syntax means that the response recorded in relation to household head is true if the answer does not equal household head, when there's one, or in other words, a count of the answer household head in that questions column in the roster. The second check is to ensure that a household head spouse, as reported in the relation to household head question, is not recorded to be unmarried. To do this, we will add the following validation condition to the marital status question. This means that the response recorded in the marital status question is true if the household member's relationship to the household head is anything other than spouse. Suppose a household is composed of 4 members. Mary is the head of household and is currently married. Next, when filling out James's information, the second household member, you see that since we have already defined a household head in the roster, an error is given when selecting that answer option. In this case, James is the household head spouse. Continuing to the marital status question, an error is given when never married is selected because we have defined James as the spouse in the previous question. Correcting the response removes the error. We may want to then ask a series of questions about a particular group of household members. For example, all women who are 15 to 49 years of age. We would then use the same list variable as the first roster, but limit the rows based on variables in the first roster. Begin by adding a list-triggered roster. Like before, define the source question as the household members list question. Then, add an enabling condition to the roster to ensure that this roster will only be enabled for female household members between the ages of 15 and 49. Next, add a date question to capture the date of birth and a categorical single select question asking if the individual has ever given birth. We can include a roster within another roster. For example, for each woman 15 to 49 years old, we may want to ask about the children they have given birth to. To do this, add a child name list question that is enabled if the household member has given birth. Next, add a list-triggered roster and define the roster source to the name question we have just created. Then add a date and a categorical question to record the date of birth and gender for each child listed. Suppose that Mary, a household member, has given birth to 3 children. After listing the 3 children, 3 rows are created, 1 for each child, to record the date of birth and gender of each child listed. There are 3 built-in variables in Survey Solutions that lets us customize its behavior based on each row of a roster. These are @rowIndex, @rowCode, and @rowName. Please note that @rowIndex is a system-generated code, and it always starts with 0. It should only be used with fixed set of items rosters and not in any other situation due to the dynamic nature of rosters. One use of these variables is in rosters of food items, where each item is likely to be measured using different units. You might want to create validation conditions specific for every unit. For example, validation conditions for liquids should be based on liters, for eggs on number of units, and so on. Begin by creating a fixed set of items consumption roster, asking about the 6 food items, as shown. Next, add a yes/no question, asking if the food item was consumed within the defined recall period. Then, since the follow-up questions asking about the amount consumed for each item must be tailored to the appropriate unit, we will add 3 different questions. First, add a numeric question asking about the number of kilograms consumed. Then, in the enabling condition field, add the following. This means that this question will be enabled if the food item has been consumed for the rows titled beef or chicken. Second, add a question asking about the number of cups consumed. Then, in the enabling condition field, add the following. This means that this question will be enabled if the food item has been consumed for the row codes 3 or 6, which is milk or coffee. Lastly, add a numeric question asking about the number of items consumed. In the enabling condition field, add the following. This means that this question will be enabled if the food item has been consumed for the row index of 3 or 4, which is eggs or loaves of bread. Suppose an individual has consumed chicken and coffee from the list of food items. When reporting that, let's say, chicken was consumed, the appropriate unit question is enabled. The same thing occurs when reporting that coffee was consumed. Rosters and Survey Solutions are powerful tools that can be as flexible as you need them to be. This video has demonstrated only a few of these capabilities. The questionnaire used in this tutorial can be found under the Public Questionnaires tab. It is named Advanced Roster Tutorial.